Well, it's the first time doing it with this nephew. It's pretty cool. Give him a little time. It's got to wire up, you know. It's musician lingo. Actually, while he's doing that, this story actually has deep meaning for me. It's based on a true person. In the late '90s, I worked for Lifebeat, the music industry fights AIDS, and my job was to get musicians to do shows for people living in long-term care facilities and in AIDS wards and hospitals. And for some reason, there was a place called Rivington House. It was 200 beds. It was state-of-the-art at the time. It was on the Lower East Side on Rivington Street. And there's one resident that was there for a really long time. I mean, for 8 years, I knew him. Sometimes he would get out and then wind up back in, which is true for a lot of the people that were living with AIDS back then. I mean, it's really before, it was kind of before the drugs were really figured out completely. And I don't know, he was a character. I used to like talking to him. He was in a wheelchair. He had tattoos and a lot of silver and jade jewelry. And I can picture him to this day. He used to like to draw, and he had a daughter, and there was a lot about him that had character. He was just in a really bad place. With his gloved hands, he smacked the plate-sized button, and the front door of the residence automatically opened. And he wheeled himself out of the door, down the ramp, and up the block to the park. It's not central, but it had trees and benches, and sometimes pretty girls flitting by. It took him back when he was young and had game. Now he was stuck in his chair, watching life on the east side leave him behind. He didn't recognize anyone anymore, and he missed the old days. Hanging out on the street corner, drinking a Colt 45, and bragging with the crew. They are long gone, and Jimmy's Corner Bodega was now a fancy boutique. He quickly gulped down his Bustelo, afraid some well-meaning hipster would toss coins in his grind. No, he didn't take handouts, at least not that way. And yeah, he lived on the government's dime, but he had no choice. Not a choice. He made the best of it living with AIDS in a long-term care facility. Despite the hanging beads and the colored lights and the photo of his angel plastered on his wall, it was just a hospital room when you get down to it. Been 8 years and he can't even remember how it came down to all of this, or he was really good at forgetting. He opened his sketchbook and drew gods and heroes and a place better than this. Time was suspended as images filled the clouds and the pencil moved across the page. The minutes of the day chipped away. It was time to go back now and wait in his room for the squeaky wheels to come down the hall and be served a plate of humility pills and a cup of juice to wash it down. To wash it down. Rock and roll has saved a lot of people, and myself included, and it saved the woman in the story. It's called, oh, funny thing, it's one of my favorite things I wrote, and I forgot to put it in the book. I don't know how. I was like, I want to do this one tonight, and I was like, what page is it on? It's like, holy shit, it's not in the book. But you'd be glad to know that pretty much like at least 3/4 or more in the process of finishing another book, and I hope to have it out sometime in the fall. This one's called Road Warrior. She stood erect with her chest puffed forward like a warrior preparing for the kill, and let out a guttural scream that emanated from a diaphragm and vibrated in her throat like ping pong balls in an air-filled tube. It was a violent release of anger and pain stored deep in her soul at the behest of a lifetime of abuse. And it shook the foundation to the core that left the audience both stunned and exhilarated at the same time. The drummer pounded out a loud thumping beat. It was a cue for the band to come in with their mournful tune in a minor key. They knew they were part of a moment, and a witness too. It was a late night religious experience, cathartic for those wishing to have something to believe in. And as sweat poured down from her brow, she coaxed out every last drop of emotion she had left to give. And for that night, under the glare of colored stage lights, and amongst the din of amplified grit, she was free. She felt like she was someone better than her own image of who she is. And when she collapsed backstage in a worn-out, stained sofa with a cold beer in her hands, she knew that briefly she had commanded her demons as they danced relentlessly in her head. They were kept at bay until the quiet of the next day, when they would begin to stir yet again. While driving to the next town in the harsh light of the morning, she slumped in the back of the van, looking out the window at trees and light posts whooshing by on the lonely stretch of another American highway. And she quietly repeated the mantra in her head: I am free, I am free, I am free. And I will summon the courage to stand on another stage in another town, in front of another faceless crowd who will never know how truly lonely I am. Okay, this is, anybody know what time it is? 5:40. Perfect. Okay, this is our last one, unless you give me a rousing standing ovation. My friend Edgar's always good at doing that. He can be very loud sometimes. Hi, Maïs. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you when you first came in. But Edgar, you know, Edgar's a big dude, man. That guy's a good guy. Even though he's a Mets fan.
Yeah, exactly.
So this one's about a woman who decides to let her true nature come out. It's called Her Life Now. She gave up caring what others thought. After a lifetime of anxiety-induced inner turmoil, she needed some extra cash. It was getting expensive hiding her true nature. So she grew her beard out. Almost a ruddy brown, like a Krylon can from 1979. It was pretty startling. A Fellini magical profile. She felt proud. Signed up for a side hustle in Coney Island. Sideshows by the seashore for the locals, the dreamers, and the bored who were looking for a thrill out from under the hot summer sun. She felt kinship amongst her fellow outcasts and outsiders who had left the mainstream a long, long time ago. They stopped trying to fit into a world not meant for their kind. When the spotlight was turned on and the show began, and the barker welcomed the audience, the curtain was raised, and they hit the stage. Life was on their terms, and nothing else mattered now. Everybody clap along! Here we go. Now we got a show. The thrills of oddity and curiosity on breathtaking display as the sun slowly went down. The show came to a close. Take a bow to mad applause and drop the curtain until the next show, when she and her kind will pass the time. This is her new glorious life now. Yes, her new glorious life. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody! And 1, 2, 3. All right. Woo! All right, so I was in bands for over 40 years, and I was always in the back because I was the drummer. And they never gave me a mic because they knew how horrible I sound when I sing. Basically, I like to describe my singing voice as a frog watching somebody eating their legs for dinner. Give a hand for Evan and Fred. Yeah. All right, so this one, I started with a comedian that bombed, and it didn't. I don't think it gave me bad karma. I don't think I bombed. So now I'm gonna. Oh, all right, yeah, come on. How about like, no, it was great. Oh, yeah. You all suck. Go home. And I gave you free buttons too. Okay, so this one's called Disappearing Act, and it's about a magician who bombs. So that's how we're gonna end it, like bookends. The magic was gone. No, I mean, like literally gone. He stood on the stage, the bright lights shining in his eyes, and began to sweat profusely. It was as if he could hear a loud clock ticking in his ear as time seemed suspended and he couldn't move. They didn't know I was going to do this, by the way. A little reprise. The audience sat silently and collectively gave the popular entertainer a disapproving stare with their mouths agape, like some of you are doing right now. What happened to his stagecraft and his flair? No ace up his sleeve? No doves to release? The rabbit was gone. No partner in a box waiting for the sound of a crisscross saw blade cut through wood. It was all seemingly over. His career was at an obvious crisis, a point of no return. He looked out into the vast auditorium that used to be under his domain, with his heart thumping like a big bass drum. I'm sorry, it's a snare drum. He stepped up to the microphone and mumbled a barely audible "thank you" and "good night." And he walked across the stage, behind the curtain, out the back exit, and into the chilly, rainy night, and was never seen in public again. Keep it going. Greg Vegas a hand. Give Christina Solomita a hand. Evan Hilzinger, Fred Argenziano, my wife, my son, my friends, my family, and everybody. Thank you for coming. And I think most of you have it booked already, so I'm not going to plug it. You can buy it. Woo! And the last words is, well, that didn't suck.